Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance, your home on the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network for any and all things Star Wars. I'm your host, as always, Katie, and joining me in his flash shirt, this is Star Wars Clay, not
I
DC.
know. See, the thing is, I I wanted to wear a Star Wars shirt. The only one that was currently clean was a Mandalorian shirt, and I just think it's too soon to have the Mandalorian episode in the beginning of the premiere of Ahsoka. So, because we know it's coming, we all know it's coming. So, when that episode airs, that is when I will wear my Mandalorian shirt.
I don't know if it will, though, because we talked about this, Clay. I sent you the screenshot on Wikipedia that
Oh,
Ahsoka is taking place at the same time as season 3 of The Mandalorian.
that is true. Hmm. Mm, they'll make a way. They will make a way for it to happen.
All right, y'all. But before we get into the nitty gritty of today's show, because yes, we are talking spoilers for Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2. You can cycle back one episode in the feed if you would like to listen to my non-spoiler review, because yes, I disappointed Clay and I got to see this early. But I digress.
All
Podcast paper.
I will say this, guys. All I saw was a picture of a screen that said Ahsoka episode 1, Ahsoka episode 2, and then the text immediately underneath that photo was "I'm sorry." I'm like, whatever. I get it. I understand. It's whatever.
I still love you, Clay. I hope you still love me.
I will say the little that I did hear from the non spoilers review, it is very coherent. It is good. We shared a link to it on our Star Wars Alliance Twitter account. And if you are not much of a listener of podcasts, I don't know why you're listening to this one, but if you would much rather read the non spoilers while you're listening to us spoil it, I don't know why you would do that either. There is also a article that
Yes.
Katie wrote for Full Circle Cinema, and you guys should definitely check that out as well.
Yes, because y'all, I would not have gotten to see the early episodes without Full Circle Cinema. So I hope you guys will at least go click on it, scroll to the end, so that I can get a view. Thank you. I appreciate you. But podcast paperwork before we get into our opening crawl. We are part of the Geek Ultimate Podcast Network. We have 7 shows, 7 days a week, most of the time, every other week. Um, we have 3 ways to support the show or the network as a whole. The first way is via Patreon, where we have 2 tiers. The $1 tier helps keep the Kyber crystals charged around here, and the $5 tier gets y'all ad-free episodes, exclusive episodes, and any early episodes we may drop. That also gets you access to our live Patreon call-in show, which is this Friday. So come join the Alliance. Let's talk about Blue Beetle. Let's talk about Ahsoka. Let's talk about that Rebel Moon trailer, shall we? The segment, of course, is via the ads. We are an ad-supported show, ad-supported network. Clay or I will give you a warning before those ads are to occur, but just so you know now, we don't get to choose who the ads are from, nor how many times you hear the same ad in the same episode, nor how loud those ads are. So that warning is just to help you prepare those volume levels. Last but certainly not least, again, talking spoilers. Only Murders in the Building, episode 4, season 3, and Ahsoka, episodes 1 and 2 of season 1, if there's ever a second season of this. So if you haven't watched it, go back, watch it. Only Murders in the Building is on Hulu. Ahsoka is on Disney Plus, and then come back because this is the place to be. So Clay, da 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 da, the opening crawl. I thought this week's episode of Only Murders in the Building was a little more mellow this time around.
It was a little bit more mellow. There wasn't really any big, well, I was gonna say any big implication towards a actual murder, but a murderer, but there actually was. And I will say Abby called it before the reveal. Um, I, I didn't catch it at all. I was like, why would you think that? And then at the very end was the big reveal. Um, so I I enjoyed this one. Uh, of course, Charles's white room disaster was quite something. Um,
That was
I
so funny.
I need to see a blooper reel or a deleted scene or whatever to see if they actually had him like do anything while they were actually showing the white room, because that would be awesome to see.
Yes, that would completely be awesome. Like, I was sitting there and I was like, "What is this white room?" And because we watched this at like 6 o'clock in the morning, so I had completely forgotten what the title of the episode was. The episode is entitled "The White Room," and so like going in, I was like, "What the heck?" And then that happened, and I was like, "Oh, oh," because like I know like makeup and hair artists are like super fantastic, but, like, something had to happen for his hair to get like that. I mean, Steve Martin's hair, like, is old dude hair. Like,
Yeah.
it's just unruly, like, but that's just what old people's hair does. So it's like, what did you have to do to get his hair like that? Completely.
I well, and I will say there was a big person missing. Of course, I think it's
Yeah.
mainly because uh she has to be way too expensive for the show. Um Meryl Streep was not in this episode at all. It was
Yeah.
there was like this hanging thing because of course Oliver is like really wanting to date her and he's in
Yeah.
love and like he's of course spilling all of this to Mabel and Charles, and eventually they do like make him ask her out. But yeah, I it did feel like there was something missing from the episode for sure.
Yeah. And I know it's definitely probably because Meryl Streep is too expensive, but I mean, we kind of talked about it last week where she's only credited as like a guest star for the season. She's not a part of the main cast
Hmm.
technically. So that did not surprise me as much, and especially I feel like Oliver was a different, like he was last season's Oliver versus the first 3 episodes Oliver. Does that make sense? Like I felt
Yeah,
like Oliver was a different character.
yeah. Oh, but there was a returning character, um, Tina Fey, of course. Uh,
Yes.
so it's very odd. So she's the one that is narrating. I did not expect her to be the one that was texting Mabel. They made it out to seem like, in my mind, that Mabel was texting the documentary person.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
That's what I thought to begin with. And I was like, wow, he's like being really aggressive. Like, I need to see you. You can't run from me. Like all of this stuff. But it was Tina Fey's. I can't remember her character name. Um, but of course, she has been a big character for the past 2 seasons, being the rival podcast. Um, how do you feel about her wanting Mabel to jump on to her studio and have a partnership there?
Let's be real now. I kind of was like, okay, at the end of last season, I was like, okay, Mabel doesn't currently have a job. Like she is like renovating the apartment and everything, but she doesn't technically have a job. So I was like, okay, what if her like Tina Fey's character's producers are like, hey, this could be awesome. We could bring you guys in, kind of thing, and you could do murder mysteries. I didn't expect it was going to be Tina Fey's character. I thought
Yeah,
it was going to be like the people who
who
pay.
run the show basically.
Yeah.
I because like of course at the very end she's like, what if I add a zero behind that number? And Mabel's like, no. And she's like, what about another one? No. And what about another one? And that's when is what makes Mabel stop. Um, and it's been like a really big thing is that Mabel uh is living in her family's apartment at the Zirconia. And the uh
Aunt?
yeah, the aunt, she is of course selling it off, but we have never seen Mabel do anything. Like she like to live there rent free has got to be amazing. But like
Especially with what we know from the first season where Oliver was about to get kicked out. He owned the apartment but couldn't pay the HOA fees.
yeah. Uh and it's definitely unrealistic to think that she can be in that apartment and really survive. Like, how is she
Yeah.
eating and doing all of this other stuff? Like, when you really think about it. But I, of course, there always has to be a controversy with every show, with every movie. There has to be some sort of conflict that gets the main protagonists to go against each other in some sort of way, and then they resolve it by the end of the season or end of the movie, whatever. If this is that controversy, if this is that conflict, I don't know how much I'm gonna like it, because she did make a good point. The whole thing is like, oh, your friends, they're old, they're slow, they're busy, like they're moving on with their life, and you're kind of doing nothing. Um,
Hmm.
I I see. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the last season, right?
We don't know that.
We don't know for sure. Okay, for some reason I felt like this was the last season. I was like, if this is the last season, and like you just make it to where she's getting this job and then like doesn't get it, or like walks out or whatever, like yeah, that would be satisfying. But like I don't know if I would like it even more if this wasn't the last season and Mabel ends the season with working with Tina Fey's character, and that's like the cliffhanger, is that like she's telling the guys like, hey, we have to like stop doing the podcast because I'm, working with her. Like
Yeah.
that would that would suck. Um, but either way, I'm glad that Tina Fey is back. I think she puts like a very fun spin on this show. Um,
Hmm.
but how do you feel about the implication that Charles's girlfriend, roommate, if you will, um, is
Fiance?
is fiance now, is now on the list of the possible uh as a possible murder suspect.
I could totally see her doing it. I think she's just got the psycho part of it down. Um,
Yeah.
so for me, especially knowing like her last season when Charles asked her out, it was like, finally, finally, Charles, we could be together. And like, I'm sorry, your makeup artist, unless you make buku's money, your makeup artist does not stick with you for 20 years,
Yeah. Abby was like, what is up with Charles and having all of these psycho girlfriends?
right?
Um, which I'm surprised we haven't seen her in this season, because she was even in part of season 2. They were having
Yeah.
phone calls. Um, and they may have like officially cut it off. Like Charles may have officially, like I can't remember if he actually put his foot down
I,
and
I think
broke it
he
off.
did because that's why he started dating Joy,
Oh, that's right. That is right. Yeah. Okay. So we probably won't see her unless these two are both psychos and they learn of each other and they go after each other. Um, but Abby was like, "Oh, why does he keep finding so many psycho girlfriends?" I was like, "How do you even know that's her? That she's the killer?" And she said it goes back to the idea that uh Ben had a red mark,
yep.
and there was such a good makeup artist that the red mark was completely out. Uh, and my thing was, I saw the lipstick and I said, "Oh, what's her name? Wears a lot of red lipstick," and it's Charles's girlfriend, Joy.
Hmm.
Um, I I don't know. I feel like it's another uh what do you call it?
Red herring.
Yeah, I think it's another red herring.
I could. I agree with you because again, it's super early in the season.
Hmm.
But like otherwise, I think she'd make a really good killer. Like if this was episode 8 of the season, I would totally be like, it's Joy. It's Joy right now. Like, get
I
her.
I think no, because I feel like in season one, I think we got a good idea really early on who the killer could be. Um,
Yeah.
and then it ended up being them. Of course, the father and son. Uh, but I think you're right. I think it might be a little too soon. Uh, your theory. I told Abby of your theory about the cookies and Ben's conversation to himself in the dressing room. Uh, she she could believe it. She's like, "Oh, that would be so funny." But who brought the cookies is the main question.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
That was what I was thinking after seeing episode 4. I was like, okay, it still could be that he was talking to Cookies, but who put the cookies? Because cookies as a wrap gift or like an opening night gift makes total sense, I think.
Hmm.
But like, who brought them?
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of disproven by the fact because like we saw all the flowers and stuff in the theater and nobody had taken anything out. So unless the killer's like really smart, I would have imagined that the cookies would still
Would still
be.
be there. Yeah.
So yeah.
It
Otherwise, I think this was a really decent episode. It definitely, I think, with Meryl Streep in like the cast for this season, it's really hard to top like any episode she's in, especially after episode 3 for me. Like her song in episode 3, I was like, yes, like on point. Um, but I think Charles at the beginning with the white room was super funny. Him going into the white room as he's trying to tell Joy, hey, I want
I
you to move out.
Katie, as soon as he hit the white room when he was trying to tell her to leave or that he wanted to break it off, as soon as the white room came on, I was like, "Oh no, he's gonna like end up having sex with her while he's in the white room or something, and it's gonna be wacky and weird." Um, and I'm so glad he kept all of his clothes on at that point. Uh,
Yeah.
but I did not picture the engagement. That was something that threw me in for a loop. Uh, I'm curious how they're going to pull all of this off. Uh,
Yeah.
especially if she is the murderer. Like she is always like up in Charles's business and everything else. So it might be a little bit harder to uh actually get some evidence and get some real claims towards it.
Yeah. Especially especially with the way she was when Charles was like, "Oh, I can just make an omelet." And she's like, "You don't need an omelet. You need me."
I am
Oh
your omelet.
my gosh. Oh,
It's such a good show. I love this show.
yes. All right. Um, I don't think we really have a ton of news this week to talk about. So let's go ahead and I guess are we ready to dive on into Ahsoka?
Yes. Yes, we are. Of course, we are going to be talking spoilers. We will be I don't know if we will 100% go into some conversations that you've been having with Taylor over on the Geek First Discord. Some funny
I
stuff going on there. Uh
Taylor's losing his mind. I also didn't know I was talking to Taylor for like a good
yeah,
30
he
minutes
he
because he changed
changed
his
he
name.
changed his name in the Discord, so it's a little bit harder to find him. But Yes, that is Taylor indeed. But we will be talking spoilers for Ahsoka. I think we will probably talk a little bit more theories on how the episodes will go in the future, and then of course, as we were doing in the last episode, we will be talking about the next 5 books in from a certain point of view, Return of the Jedi, which I don't remember where that starts as far as the next 5, but we will be talking about that. That book has not come out yet. It will be out in 1 week. So uh, let's go ahead and get into it. Uh, we will have a full review of From a Certain Point of View coming out next week as well, for when the book actually releases, just to let you guys know. But let's go ahead. You've had your warnings. Let's jump right into this. Katie, since you got to see it first, what were your initial thoughts and reactions to what you saw on screen?
So, okay, I think the first thing that I like viscerally reacted to was Morgan Elsbeth revealing that she was a Night Sister, because I think we had predicted that
I think so
last
also.
in season 2. And it was like, oh my gosh, like we were right kind of thing. Um, David is here in the chat. Hello, David.
Yes, hello,
Um,
hello.
so that was like the biggest thing I reacted to. There is a lot of prequel references. Like,
Hmm.
I saw somebody on Twitter talk about this, but like the opening scene with Balon and what's her name? Oh my gosh. The Padawan, Shin, Hati. Uh both of them, it felt like the Phantom Menace.
It did. There was actually some callbacks as well. We got a photo from, I believe, either Taylor or Travis put it in our Star Wars Alliance chat. There is like almost a frame by frame scene with Shin, with a protocol droid. Uh,
Android.
Probe droid, sorry, not a protocol droid, a probe droid, which is exactly like Darth Maul in Phantom Menace. So I thought that was really funny. But also Ray Stevenson. I just want to go ahead and say this right now. Of course, this is one of his last performances. I can't remember if this is actually his last or if he had something else in the can before he unfortunately passed away. But my God, what a hulking of a man. I don't
Right?
remember how stocky he was. Of course, I think the only things that I've really seen him in were where he was, of course, part of the uh, Brothers 3 in Thor, and he also played the Punisher, and he was a little bit slimmer back then, but in his Jedi, like in his like I guess Sith robe or whatever you even want to call it, um, he just looked like towering. He looked so
Yep.
big and so menacing. He is,
And
oh my god.
not taking the hood off. Oh, oh my
It looks
gosh.
so good. I love the scene where they go in that like where you first see them, that whole discussion, like uh oh, these are Jedi. Well, I'm gonna call their bluff, the captain of the ship and everything. Uh and then where Balin was like, you're right, we're not Jedi, and just freaking murders them and murders everybody on that ship. Absolutely terrifying. Um but of course, this is not just a Balin and Shin show. There are other characters that we have seen, that including Hera, of course, Ahsoka,
Mhm.
Sabine, and Chopper. Um,
And Hu Yang.
and Hu Yang, yes, Hu Yang actually showed up a little bit sooner than I thought. And we got it wrong. There is no explanation whatsoever. There is a conversation that kind of goes back, that is a little bit of a callback to what happened to him, because Sabine says, "Oh, hi, Hu Yang, like all in one piece, I see," and he's like, "Yes, with 98% of my original parts." So like we clearly know that he was dismantled. But there is no hint at how he recovered and how Ahsoka and him got like met up or anything. So really interesting to still hear that story.
Yeah, for sure. Like the amount, and my sister's currently watching Ahsoka right now. My watch is currently blowing up with her stuff. But she's watching it without any Rebels background, so she's like, "Who the fuck is Ezra?" Like, and all this kind of,
see,
and
see, it you can't not watch that show. It is heavily dependent on it. Uh Now, of course, you can just watch it as like, oh, these characters are just Star Wars characters. I'll find out everything, when it comes to it. But I think there is so much there dependent on, hey, let's go find Ezra. You need to know who that character is, you know? Uh
so okay, I kind of disagree with you. I kind of disagree with you.
okay.
I was thinking that Madeline, the sister who's watching Ahsoka right now, and my other sister, Ansley, who has seen Rebels, I was thinking Madeline was going to get it because there's like there's obviously the Thrawn reference and then there's the Ezra reference. And
Yes.
both are kind of like prevalent throughout the episodes, but I think to me, and now y'all, this is me coming as the person who's watched Rebels. Like to me, I think I could have watched this and been like, okay, who's Ezra? But then I would have gone, okay, they're gonna explain this to me later on. Like I'm gonna get an explanation. That was the way it was phrased. It was not like Ezra is this character, like he's a main character in this. Like,
Yeah, I guess you could see it that way. And I mean, as of yet, right now, with the 2 episodes that we have seen, there hasn't been that explanation. It is
mhm.
still, where's Ezra? Um
But and this was like the second part of it is like I feel like we're coming in and we're getting a completely different Ahsoka and we're getting a completely different Sabine. Hera's about the same, I think. Hera's personality, would you agree with that? Hera's
so that's
pretty
something
on
that I
point.
wanted to bring up. Uh I am so used to the speech patterns of the voice actors, the way they portray the character, the way they
Mhm.
animated the character. Uh, I think Rosario Dawson has done a great job as Ahsoka. But just coming off of Rebels once again, and then seeing her, like, I don't feel like her stances are quite as what they are in the show, so like it feels like a completely different person in some aspects. uh and Hera, yes, I do feel like Mary Elizabeth Winstead has gotten some of that tone in Hera's voice down, uh but it's still a little jarring seeing Hera.
Yeah.
And I think it may be another instance of like the Leku not being as long or something is up with her
So
goggles.
I actually went back and looked because I thought the same thing with her Leku. But looking at a picture, they're like
Pretty
maybe an inch or
pretty
two
close.
off. Yeah, but they're pretty close.
Okay. It might just be the way that the goggles are on her head
Mhm.
and Leku. It just looks a little odd. Maybe her eyes are a little too blue also. It could be a handful of things.
And I
Uh
think that has to do more with like the lighting aspects with like live action versus animation. They're able to sort of balance that brightness in
mhm.
Hera's eyes with the animation because they can just control the lighting. Hi Finn.
No, it's Abby's right here too, and now she's running away.
Hi Abby.
You're trying to what? Throw you a shoe? Okay, guys, hold on.
So, okay, so for me, I think it's just like we're coming so far into the future from Rebels. This is 6 years after Return of the Jedi and about 10 years after Rebels. I
Yes.
think the differences in the characters line up in just the experiences that we haven't experienced with them.
And that is something that you have to take into account because the one of the very last pieces of monologuing in Rebels is Sabine telling you what has gone on without really telling you what has gone on. and then you jump right into this. Um, and that's like you get the hints and the nuances, like, again, the whole Hera and Ahsoka conversation of like, oh, Sabine is headstrong and all of this, and the comparison to Anakin and all of that. And of course, the very clear tension between Sabine and Ahsoka. Uh,
Yep.
that was clearly there, made it very awkward. Uh, so yes, I do agree with you that we clearly have not seen, obviously, the those years that are between the movies and shows, and currently this show. um Now, with that being said, the relationship, should I say, between Ahsoka and Sabine, oddly enough, and I thought it was going to be odd to begin with, just because of the idea, like, you have to introduce the idea even to current Star Wars fans that Sabine was being trained to be a Jedi. That
Yep.
is something that is being introduced to us today. Um, and I needed it to be believable. After the conversation with Hera and Ahsoka and the tension between the two, I think it's pretty prevalent. Um, I want to see how their relationship moves forward with the
Mhm.
rest of the show to like really make me believe like, oh, this is a duo that I need to see more often. Or hey, where's that comic run of Ahsoka initially training her? Like,
Yeah, that's what I want is, and I think we're gonna get some flashbacks, to them training together initially, but I think the biggest thing is, and maybe that's like the next publishing initiative, it is getting that tie-in stuff,
mhm,
giving us a book, like Lucasfilm is going like, "Hey, we don't really wanna talk, like, we don't want a show or we don't want an animated something talking about Ahsoka training Sabine for the first time. Why don't Del Rey have somebody write it?" Kind of
yeah,
thing.
I could see that. I mean, they we're always going to be getting Star Wars books anyway, and to uh have that, I would not argue against it whatsoever. I do feel, well, I guess this really, you couldn't really answer this question. Well, I don't know, because we had said, or you had said, because again, I haven't read it, that Tales of the Jedi kind of uh messed up the canon of the Ahsoka book. Like that was the big discussion all on Twitter and online.
Yeah.
Is I want to know if there's anything. Do you think they would reference any of that stuff at all in this show? Like, do you think there's any prevalence to do so?
Maybe something with, like, background characters, like I can't think of their names off the top of my head, but, like, just, like, the people that she helps save in that, maybe they're working for, the New Republic, and
Hmm.
we kind of come across them. Um, so, yeah, that would be my thought.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, Jai Kell is in this episode. He is now the senator for Lothal.
Yes. I was very, and of Clancy Brown, of
Yep.
course, reprising his role in this show. Really love that. Uh, I love setting the scene for everything here. Um,
Mhm.
Lothal looks to the T
It's stunning.
how it did in animation, and I think
Mhm.
that is a feat within itself. Uh,
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool. Uh, and then of course seeing Sabine be absolutely crazy
Yeah.
on her speeder. But I love the reintroduction to those characters. Uh but the two episodes within itself are surrounding the idea of this map that of course is uh showing the location, or should have the location of where Thrawn is. Um
I wanted to ask you this question. So, okay. So this temple is old. Morgan Elsbeth says it's been made. It was a temple of her ancestors, and that's when we get the reveal that she's a Night Sister.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the way that the map was stored in the temple looks very old.
Yeah.
So is this temple 10 years old or is it older? It's got to be older because the Night Sisters were demolished in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So when did the map get put here?
You got me there. Uh, it could be that oh shoot, what's her name? Uh,
Morgan?
Morgan. Yeah, sorry. I was like, it starts with an M. Morgan. Morgan, being a Night Sister, may have known the location of that temple and put it there herself.
My thing with that is A, so okay, this is kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but the map leads from one specific planet in the Star Wars galaxy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a hyperspace route to a whole nother galaxy.
Yes.
How would you know where the Purgles went? Because the Purgles don't have a hyperdrive. They
No,
don't follow normal rules of hyperspace.
but we also, skipping ahead here, have heard from Morgan herself that Thrawn is calling out to her in time.
Sure.
So, although she can't get exact location and coordinates and everything from Purgles, Thrawn is a Grand Admiral. Like, as much as I hate him, he is resourceful. He has to be resourceful. If he's not resourceful, how is he a Grand Admiral? You know?
Yep.
So I think I think there should be an explanation. Um, I I think it would be a little silly if there isn't an explanation because I don't think you can just be like, ah, it's Star Wars, just completely just leave it there for people to just, argue amongst themselves. David says, my thought is that it was kind of like whale travels, the path that the Purgles typically travel to and from. So a familiar route,
So
essentially.
my thought with that is that as like nobody knew what the Purgles were on Lothal. Ezra had to call them on the specific radio frequency
Hmm.
so that the Purgles came to Lothal. So it wouldn't be like a typical path traveled. Plus, Star Wars, like the galaxy well known is within Star Wars. Like, yes, we had what was it, Lothal, the original planet of, or not Lothal. Oh my gosh, Zeb's people's planet.
Uh, uh,
You know what I'm talking about.
yes.
Listeners, y'all know what I'm talking about. It was an episode in Rebels. So, okay, they go through like the like galaxy spiral and Zeb has to lead them with his staff. So, like is
Lasan.
Lasan, yes. Um so like is that in another galaxy? Like or is this like they're caught cuz like planets are in systems.
Yes.
So it's not like they're calling like a system a galaxy. Like this is like all the way, like Milky Way type shit. So I don't know. David says from galaxy to galaxy, Lothal might be close enough though. Could be. It's just like, especially reading like the High Republic and everything, it's always interesting to see how hyperspace is like mapped out. I like to get really technical with this stuff because like you find out that you can't go from Coruscant to Tatooine. You have to go Coruscant to Corellia to Naboo, then to Tatooine.
Yeah.
So
So here's another thing about the map. Um, Clearly, we were wrong. We can admit that. It was not the world between worlds.
It was not, yes, the little spiral thing.
The spiral thing is the actual map being projected. But this hit me while Sabine was literally looking at the map, figuring everything out. She says, 3 statues, 3 people, 3 something. And in my head, I was literally yelling at the screen. I was like, the portal of the world between worlds. It was the 3 people with the 3 hands. Like, I think we are still getting there. I think it's still gonna be a thing in this show.
I could totally see it. But my question is, what is the Eye of Sion? Is it a gigantic galaxy hyperspace travel ring for a superstar destroyer?
That's what it looked like. It
Mhm.
looked massive. Of course, this is we're kind of blending the 2 episodes together, people. This is how they decided to put it out, and so that's how we're deciding to talk about it. Hera, Ahsoka, and Chopper go to this shipyard planet where they could find some information on Morgan and where they went and where they're from and all of this stuff because of this assassin droid. And we will talk about that scene also. We will talk about the assassins and everything and Sabine. But we see there are still some people loyal to the Empire.
Yep.
That was kind of jarring for me. Now, uh,
Right?
I know there's always going to be others that are, uh, sympathizers or whatever you want to call them. Uh, but to straight up like yell out for the Empire and then try to murder an ex Jedi, somebody who is clearly armed with lightsabers, uh, I was like,
And a
holy crap!
general of the New Republic.
Yeah, it was chaos immediately. And then, of course, this is the scene that we got in the trailer where Ahsoka crashes the glass, jumps down, runs, and it was a giant hyperdrive that they were, of course, taking. The mechanism that they're attaching the hyperdrive to at the end of episode 2, this thing was massive. Um,
Like half the planet, I would
Yeah,
say.
I would say about a half a planet size or a small moon. Um,
Hmm. Because
but
it's got 4 hyperdrives on it. So the hyperdrive that was being stolen off of Corellia, because we did get to go to Corellia, which was awesome.
yeah,
Um, but the hyperdrive was one of 4 that was being installed to this mechanism. And it looks like a prequel hyperspace ring from the Jedi fighters.
yeah, I think that's what it might be. Uh, maybe like that is what they are planning to use to go search for Thrawn in. Like I have no idea. Uh, but it's massive and it's scary.
Hmm.
Uh, but let's talk about Sabine. Um, Hard-headed, just like in
Yep.
Rebels. Uh, I love that they still kept that within her personality. She has basically a pet loth cat, which I think is really,
Hmm.
really cool. That almost looks, should I say, practical. It looks practical. I know it's not,
Yeah.
but it looks practical, and I think
It
that's
could be
really,
like
really
a
good. A puppet.
yeah, puppet. You could even, I mean, they make like the robot dogs. It could have
Yeah.
been something very similar.
So I loved all of that. Uh, but there has been some discourse on this whole thing with the duel that Sabine has. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
seen this discourse. Uh,
Oh, the I got stabbed in the
hash,
abdomen and survived.
hashtag justice for Qui-Gon has been all over Twitter and all over the internet, all over TikTok. I think it's absolutely hilarious. Uh, but the reason why that is of course there's this giant fight between what is her name, Sin and Sabine, and I'll Sabine got training from both, or I guess all three technically, from uh, uh, Ahsoka, from Ezra, and from
Kanan.
yeah, and from Kanan. So she should know how to fight with a lightsaber. I loved her ready stance, of course, that Ezra just drilled into her brain. But there was a lot of jump cuts in the fight, but it was a good lightsaber fight. And then at the very
I
end of that fight, oh well, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, I really liked the fight, and I think Shen and Sabine did really well playing off of each other. I need to see more of Shin because I feel like she's just kind of being like she really feels like Obi-Wan, being like the quiet, silent
Hmm.
Padawan. I am here to be seen and not heard kind of thing. But going back to the jump cuts thing, this show has officially made me a hater of the volume because that is the limitation in this fight is they could not figure out how to get a camera to move succinctly in that circular space. And you would think that they would, because this fight, it's maybe like 3 or 4 feet long in like a circle.
Yeah,
Would you say? And like it literally, there's so many jump cuts, we could not go smoothly around and get like, I think there was like maybe a 5 second long like
yeah. It
space,
it
and then they would
wasn't
cut.
there wasn't a whole lot of interaction with the lightsabers before there would be another jump cut. And I would actually say probably closer to 6 or 7 feet between where they are standing apart from each other and then they get closer and all of that. Um, but yeah, it was kind of bland. Now I did like the fight scene with uh what's his name? Merrick? Merrick
Yeah, the
and
Inquisitor.
yes, the Inquisitor, Merrick, and Ahsoka, and the Assassin Droid. I did like that one a little bit more. Uh,
Yeah, I feel like Steph, because Steph Green directed the second episode, so I feel like
mhm,
she had a better control than Dave Filoni did, because Dave directed the first episode.
yeah. Uh, but Sabine gets stabbed in the gut by a lightsaber.
Hmm.
And one of the first things I saw in reaction to this on TikTok was it was a voiceover. It was the scene, and somebody had voiced over it, and they're like, "Do you remember when lightsabers used to kill people?" Uh, and then they showed her, of course, being in the med bay where she has been stitched up. We have seen since Qui-Gon, more and more people are surviving attacks from lightsabers. So we shouldn't be surprised by this. But also, in my mind, of course, there's some individuals that maybe were like, "Hey, I'm not watching any trailers, so that way they're not
Hmm.
spoiled." But we have clearly seen scenes that had her with short hair, with the lightsaber,
Yep.
and she had long hair in the scene. Like she wasn't going
Yep.
to die, people. Like it's just like it wasn't going to happen.
And I would just like to point out, if it'll share, um, I would just like to point out that this is where Qui-Gon got stabbed, and Sabine got stabbed in like a kidney, and you can function without one kidney.
Yeah,
Also,
like
Star Wars medical is like amazing, but like this is his spine, and
I
he
was
was
I was just
left
about to
on
say,
the
like,
ground.
I think that his spine literally got severed compared to Sabine probably getting a little bit of her intestines and kidney uh, nicked, should I say? Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, there is medical reasons also. Again, we're not doctors, but there is biology that helps out there. Um, but uh, I just want to give a shout out to uh, Dave Filoni for voicing Chopper, just like in Rebels, and actually making it to where you can kind of understand what he is saying. The conversation between Chopper and Hera in the second episode was so great. Like he was like, "Can you just shoot it down?" She's like, "No, I can't shoot it down. The thing would fall onto the city." And Chopper was like, "Is that bad?"
And then when he's trying to find the tracking beam, and he's like, Hera, did you go through my stuff? And she's like, no, I didn't go through your stuff. And it's like, no, you totally did. And she's like, did you check under the backup battery? And he's like, oh.
Oh, there it is. I love it. Oh man. I we need more Chopper. But just to
I
see
need
that
Chopper to narrate like the original trilogy. Like,
the way that Chopper is just like, again, people, you need to understand this is quite possibly the most wanted criminal in all of Star Wars galaxy, like continuity. He
49 billion kills.
Yeah, he is insane, and I love him for it. Um, but that was great too. Uh, Now you asked me in our predictions, do I expect there to be more Rebels characters showing up in this show?
Mhm.
After seeing these 2 episodes, I'm more inclined to say no. I think it's going to be a Sabine Ahsoka focused show. But I did say this is essentially Rebel season 5, and it definitely feels like that.
Yes.
I'm just gonna put that out there.
And I can say, like, I don't feel like you would need Rebels for this. Like, knowing who Ezra is and knowing who Thrawn is, I think that's important. And I'm not saying that you should ignore Star Wars Rebels. Um, what I do think is that there is enough time distance and that there is enough unknowns about Ahsoka and Sabine's relationship that I even think that people who have watched everything, not necessarily read, but watched everything, are going to be like, what the heck is going on? Like, I think that's my biggest thing is like the time and the Sabine Ahsoka master apprentice relationship. That's going to throw people for a loop. And it already has. So for me, that's where I'm like, okay, this is Rebel season 5 completely, but also I think you're going to be questioning enough anyways that they're going to be filling stuff in along the way.
Yeah. I
So,
think that is true. Uh Trying to think if there's anything else that we need to uh cover here. Um I
so
do
just some feedback from my sister
Okay.
and her text messages. So she said, um, map from Ahsoka looks like the map from Treasure Planet. She has actually seen that and I haven't.
Oh yeah.
So
I like as soon as I saw it, I posted that GIF on Twitter. I was like,
I saw it this
it is
morning.
uncanny how like similar they look. But keep
Yep.
going.
She said, also, I have no idea what's going on. They tried to make the cat as cute as and she called it a purg, but she's talking about the purgle. Or no, she's talking about the
The
penguins.
Okay, yeah.
Um, and she said, first reference, I understand the Night Sisters. Ahsoka's relationship with the purple-haired girl needs to be explained at some point. Way too much tension.
And again, like I said, it I think there will be stuff not only in this show, but I think there could be possible, like we said, novels and everything else. I think it would
Yeah.
make more sense to put it in a flashback, or at least like we've said this before. Hyperdrive travel is not instantaneous. There's sometimes days, if not weeks, between that travel. So,
Yep.
if there is some downtime where they get to explain away some stuff, use it. I think the audience will be better for it. Um, but yeah, I do think there needs to be some sort of explanation because the simple, oh, I left her just he left I left the Jedi just like how I left Sabine. Like that's not good enough. Like
Yep.
we need something there. Why did you leave Sabine? Right? Like
Yep.
was she too difficult? Were you too hard on her? Like I need to know what the relationship was before so that way I myself can justify whether you should have left or not, you know? Uh
Yep.
because we have grown to love Ahsoka. I saw another TikTok earlier this morning that was like uh, Star Wars fans before, and it was the scene of the original Tobey Maguire Spider Man where J. Jonah Jameson is like calling him a menace, and it had a picture of Ahsoka, and then it had uh, in Spider Man 2 where his like suit is like pinned up to the wall. And calling like he's calling him a hero, and it had a picture of adult Ahsoka. So like us as Star Wars fans have grown to be like, hey, we're not quite sure about this new character because it was never referenced before, clearly because the story was never told. But then we've grown to love her. Um, I'm okay with being mad at Ahsoka if it's for the right reasons.
Yep.
Um, we have seen stupid decisions made by characters that we love in this franchise. So, I need to know a little bit more explanation uh, for that relationship for sure.
Yep. 100%. She also did ask, like I said, she asked about who is Ezra. Um, she said, also did Ahsoka become more serious in Rebels because she is not as likable right now.
And
Which
I would say yes. She also going back and watching Rebels again like a second time through, she did not get a whole lot of screen time, but it was never
yep.
about Ahsoka. Ahsoka was just
Oh.
a part of that show. Um,
And I think she has grown as a, I'm not gonna say Jedi, but a Force user.
mhm.
Because like she exhibits new powers. Like she like is able to replay Sabine and Shin's fight, never having been there herself. She's listening to the Force impressions
Yeah.
that are around her, kind of thing. And I'm really interested to see how that continues to progress. I think some of like the jumps and everything, as well as like the lightsaber moves that she uses in the first fight when she's at that Night Sister temple
Mhm.
are definitely something that she's learned over the years and just continue to improve on.
The way she dodged that double bladed lightsaber, like just with a swift like moving of her shoulder, was
Okay,
cold as fuck, and it was so cool.
I it was cold and it was cool, but I wanted to see her just grab it out of the air. Like, you can't have this back. I'm taking it.
Yeah, I was wondering where it was gonna go, like, cause of course he threw it, and I'm like, "Okay,
Yep.
he's gotta get it back." So as soon as I saw him, like, pulling it, I was like, "Is she gonna, like, do a cool flip and, like, go over it? Are they gonna, like, pull it off? Is she gonna get nicked by it? Like, how are they gonna play this off?" And for her to just, like, slowly, like, not n sh there was no rush. She
Yep.
did not worry about it whatsoever, and it just cleanly passed her. I thought that was really, really cool. Very, very subtle. Um, but also just as I guess the ending of this. Well, I don't because I don't know much on how we should go about like anywhere else with this episode because there wasn't a whole lot left. Uh,
So what do you think about the storytelling? Dave Filoni is the only one who's credited as a writer in this show. And I've had my complaints with Dave Filoni previously. But what did you think about this? And then I'll tell you.
this show so far with just 2 episodes, I am really enjoying the story. Everything is making sense. Everything is has a nice pace to it. There isn't anything that to me is like, why did that happen or where are we going from here? In a bad way, should I say? Because I do want to know where are we going from here. Um, the uh, the story of Balin and Shin, I am very eager to learn. Um, I am we got a little bit of the personality of Balin because yes, he is cold and very aggressive in that first scene where we see him, but when he is in the hollow projection talking to Morgan, he is also wise where he is like, okay, Ahsoka may not know where we are, but she's resilient and she's going to find us. Like she is coming this way. I just know it. and he's hesitant to move forward with it. And Morgan's like, "What? Are you afraid to kill a Jedi?" And he's like, "No, there's just so much. There's only so little left of us. It's quite
Hmm.
sad." So there is something there in Balin, and I want to like in the trailers and the TV spots that we've seen with Ahsoka and Balin talking. I don't think it's going to be as much as like, hey, I hate the Jedi now and all of this stuff. I think it's going to be a legitimate conversation between the two with fighting in between. And I'm really eager to see that conversation.
And I really think we're gonna get that in the next episode. Because so like I think the only things in the trailer that I can think of off the top of my head, because I didn't watch a ton of them, but the ones I saw, we have Hera talking to Mon Mothma and a Senate crew.
Yes.
We have Ahsoka in a rebellion security or New Republic security outfit.
Hmm.
And there's a couple shots of Sabine and Ahsoka flying, and then the Sabine training with the helmet and like in like the white tank top and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the Balin and Ahsoka fight. I really think since that since that fight is like the majority of what's left in the trailer, I really think it's going to be in the next episode because in like Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi stuff, the trailers have mostly come from the first couple of episodes.
Yeah. Very, very
So
true. Um, Question though, at the very end of the last episode that we watched, episode 2, uh there's a noise, and then Balin looks up into the sky and we see nothing. But that noise is very familiar. It sounded like a Purgle. Like, do
I
you
did not get a chance to watch episode 2. Again, I got to watch episode 1,
okay.
but
So watch it again. Like when they are out, when basically Morgan tells him, like, hey, like this is the plan that we're executing. You're going to kill Ahsoka. They walk away because Sin is going off to try to kill uh uh Sabine, and then Morgan goes off. We see Balin look up into the sky after there's a noise, and it sounds like a Purgle.
and David said there was a tease of a shadow in the sky. Okay, I will try and keep an eye out on that on my second watch. But yeah, otherwise like I really think like I may not be happy with some of the choices made for the show. And I definitely think Ahsoka's kind of been sidelined. Natasha Liu Bordizzo as Sabine has stolen the first 2 episodes. Like she killed it. Ray Stevenson killed it. So for me, I need to see Ahsoka more. This is her show. Her name is on the show.
I know, but I told you this is
And
Rebels season 5.
and I agreed. But you don't fucking name something after a character and then sideline that character. Like so
I
that's my
agree.
opinion.
I
It's a nitpick.
agree. It's like for me, it is going to be interesting to really feel like an Ahsoka show with the story so heavily reliant on the backbone of Rebels. Um, and I don't think it'll start feeling like an Ahsoka show, because I think this is me making another prediction here. I think that Ahsoka and Sabine are going to open up a little bit more now that they are like, okay, we are master and apprentice here. I think that we're going to be getting the flashbacks of Anakin and Ahsoka only because Ahsoka is telling Sabine about her master.
Oh.
I think that's the only reason why we're going to be getting those flashbacks is they are going to be opening up to each other a little bit more. Um, and I think that's like, because even Ahsoka shouldn't really know Ezra that well. Like, yeah, she had some moments with him during some of the rebel meetings, and they went on a couple missions together. But comparatively to Sabine knows Ezra more. And so I think Sabine is going to be opening up to Ahsoka with some memories of Ezra. And I think that is why we will have possibly some flashbacks with the Ezra actor
Yeah.
as Ezra.
I think that could be a good possibility, and I think it would help kind of explain some stuff for people who aren't stepping into this
Yeah.
with that knowledge. Andrew has entered the chat. Hello there. I hope you enjoyed your dinner. David said, "What do you think about Thrawn quote calling to Morgan Elsbeth him across the space? That feels a little out of character to me. Have there been whispers of another villain?" So okay, I'm gonna go kind of deep into some canon books, David. Okay, so bear with me for a second. The Thrawn Ascendancy books explain that younger Chiss females have the ability to use the Force, and that those females are basically they're called Skywalkers, and they are navigators. They're basically hyperspace beacons, and they navigate through hyperspace, navigating around obstacles and everything. Um, so for me, I kind of took this as a okay, the Chiss have never known how to develop this horsepower in the male side of the species. So what if Ezra was able to help Thrawn open up and that they're calling out to each other, but maybe in a different way because it's in a different galaxy. So, like, the surroundings maybe allow Thrawn to open up a little bit more than Ezra because Ezra's used to using the Force one way, but Thrawn can access it in this galaxy. So, to me, that's what we're getting, especially with like Thrawn with the Thrawn imagery that we've gotten in the trailers. Because, and you could say, oh, well, maybe the Thrawn stuff is flashbacks. We see Thrawn on the Eye of Sion. Like, the same room that Morgan is in the end of the episode is the room that Thrawn is in the
In the
trailer.
trailer. Yeah, I noticed that as well. Um, which unfortunately, like, one of our theories has to be true. And with that being said, I don't think it means well for Ezra. Um,
Somebody on Twitter, though, brought up a very good point. The only reason Dave Filoni killed Kanan is because Freddie Prinze Jr. was practically begging him to. That is the only reason. Dave Filoni does not like killing his characters.
okay, but if it's to help the progression of a story, I think that killing a character is worth it. Now, again, like I don't like the killing of a character just to progress a story. But if there is a legitimate reason for that character death within the development of a story, yes, do it. This, I think, uh, I think there's going to be, if at all possible, that Ezra dies, that we have the revelation that Ezra has been dead. I think that there will be a lot of complaints of people saying, "Oh, the only reason why they did it was to make Sabine the Jedi." Blah 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 blah, and there will be a whole lot of hate towards that, which I think is stupid. Um, but I think that I'm hoping that Ezra's not dead. Of course, I'm the one
Mhm.
that brought it up when we had those predictions, because I'm always the one that's looking at the worst possible scenario. And we have talked about the possibility of, maybe the Inquisitor is
Mhm.
Ezra, and we're gonna have a whole thing about him coming back to the light side. So who knows? I think it would be a little weird for Thrawn to be lost and then Ezra just be here as an Inquisitor. Like, that doesn't feel quite so right to me either. So we'll see.
We'll see. We will. All right. So, what would you rate these two episodes out of five?
Out of 5, I'm gonna give. I think I did like the second a little bit more than the first. Um, but I would give the first a 3.5 out of 5, and I would give the second a 4 out of 5.
I am solidly at a 4.5 out of 5. I think average across both. Because that's the way I had to rate it was 1 for both. Um, I think for me, the special effects and volume issues are negligible. I think Dave Filoni is telling a really great story.
Yeah,
And it's a slow build that is still connected to everything, and it's making sense. I do fear a filler episode, especially knowing there's only 8, but I think these episodes have been so varied in length. I think we could get maybe a long episode, maybe a short episode, like, and kind of vary things out. It'll just be interesting to see. So,
yeah, for sure.
we ready for book club?
I think we are. Of course, for those who are not familiar with this, Katie and I have had the opportunity to be reading, from a certain point of view, Return of the Jedi, or from a certain point of view, Returns, um, early. Of course, it is coming out next week. We are reviewing 5 stories every single week, and we will have an overall review coming out next week with the release of the book itself. So that'll be just a like, hey, these are our favorite stories. These are the ones that didn't really tickle our fancy, whatever we want to say. And then an overall like, hey, this is what we think of the overall book. But we are just going to go over 5 stories each and every week, just to kind of fill in the gap, for some dead space within the episode. We don't want to make these too short for you guys. Um, I e-
Especially with how long some of them have been recently.
exactly, exactly. So uh, we'll go ahead and jump into that right now. So if you guys want to wait, you can definitely do so. Just know that if you want some more details on each story, you can always go back to these episodes and listen to our thoughts on each and every story. So David said he will catch the book club offline. So, David, thank you so much for making it here to the live. And of course, anybody who would like to join us live, you can definitely do so at the Geekverse YouTube channel for any of those who are listening to us right now, post live, of course. But let's go ahead and jump into the book club. The first story within, from a certain point of view, returns is The Plan by
Yes.
Saladin Ahmed. This is the Rancor story, or the
Rancor
Rancor
trainer
trainer
episode.
story. Yes. So what did you think about this one?
So this one, it was definitely, I feel like it was a quick, like, little nugget into the Rancor trainer, especially knowing we only get like a little, like, a shot of him after the Rancor Patissa dies in Return of the Jedi. But I liked this one, and I liked the over, like, the tie-in to Patissa's moment in Return of the Jedi, where the I can't remember, it's Scraps, I think. Scraps trains the beast trainer guy, Malik
Yes.
Malak Malakali, um, and trains him and is like, you know, if your beast ever kills a Jedi, ever eats a Jedi, he will transform into something greater than everything. And I liked how that tied into everything. What did you think?
This was very interesting. The idea of uh, the Rancor eating a Jedi or any beast at that point. The idea was that they would become a wishing, or a wishing beast, or I forgot the actual phrasing of it. Um, but it was this just like rumor fairy tale type
Yep.
thing that again, I can't remember his name, or the pronunciation of it. Malakali, uh wait, Malakili.
Yeah.
Okay, Malakili. Um he was an individual that brought him in and was like, "Hey, like you got nothing to your name, you stay with me." And it was basically just because one of his beasts, one of his pets, came a liking to him, and they're like, "Okay, cool. Well, I'll teach you everything you need to know, and eventually you can be on your own or whatever." Unfortunately, it ends very tragic for uh, for Malakali. He is basically murdered by thieves that rummage his home. Um, and I can never. What was the actual trainer called? His name?
I thought his name was Malakili
No, no, no. The one
or Scraps.
is it Scraps?
I think so. I got it. Come on, Kindle load.
Oh, I guess no, no, no. I think you're right. So Malakili is the trainer, the one that we're following,
Yeah,
and Scraps is the
is the
one.
guy who took him off the streets.
Yes. So Scraps, sorry, got the names confused. Scraps is the one that ends up getting murdered, and brings in Malakili. But Malakili, he eventually came to be in Jabba's palace, and uh,
My slavers,
yeah,
like horrible.
yeah. But the whole thing was that this Rancor came about, and he's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I'm gonna learn to love this thing and nurture it." And it was kind of a sweet moment. It's like, oh, rancors can be kind of dangerous, but I've learned everything about them. So, I'll slowly get to know you. I'll keep my distance for a little bit. As you get older, you can clearly kill me. So I'll still keep my distance, but we'll love each other. You'll learn to love me. I'll learn to love you. So it was a nice story. I do like this. Um, and then of course, like at the very end, I it's so like how the story ends because we've all seen Return of the Jedi, but
Hmm.
uh he's there like just nurturing his rancor. He's like, soon you're gonna be free. Like
Yep.
it's only a matter of time. Well, not so much. No, I don't think
Yeah.
that's gonna happen.
Unfortunately. So yeah, I think this is a good story. It's just not my favorite.
Mhm.
Um, it doesn't hit like quite the impact.
Yeah.
Um, so the next story is called Reputation, and it's about Boba Fett, and it's by Tara Sim. Saladin Ahmed wrote the plan
Yes.
story. What did you think about Boba Fett? I liked this one and how it tied into War of the Bounty Hunters.
So I never finished War of the Bounty Hunters, so I
Either.
didn't really catch a lot of those cues. Um, but this one, I did like this one. Uh, there was a lot of course, this whole thing of like calling back to Han Solo and their relationships and all of that. I did like this one. Uh, I'm trying to not get this one and the next one confused because they all kind of mesh together because the next one is basically uh just about everybody else that was
Yeah.
there
Well,
trying.
it's specifically about the guy who gets kicked by Luke.
Yeah, yeah. uh but the Boba Fett story, uh I enjoyed. uh just this one was the one that didn't really ring true to me. Like it didn't really, it wasn't my favorite out of all of them.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I feel like it was quick and succinct. It kind of gave a lot of Easter eggs, but yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to it other like the name of the story, Reputation, kind of speaks for itself. It boils down to Boba's there to make sure his reputation of being a successful bounty hunter doesn't get lost.
Yeah.
Now, would I have liked to have seen maybe this story be a and I know we got him escaping the Sarlacc in Book of Boba Fett, but would I have maybe liked to have seen that instead of kind of a flashback, and then him being in Paris.
I mean, we kind of did in a different story.
Oh yeah, yes.
We did get that, but we'll get there when we get there. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. With how much they've kind of developed Boba Fett as a character through comics, through the book of Boba Fett, I think you had a little bit more to play with, and there wasn't much. Like, yes, there was the ever so often uh callback to the War of the Bounty Hunters. Um, I think was it this one that talked about uh I think it was at the very beginning. Where was it? That they talked about Kira and the uh
Yeah,
but it was this story, right?
I think so.
I can't remember the exact quote. I'm trying to look through it real quick. But like you said in the very beginning of this story, like I do like the callbacks because it again goes back to the idea that everything is canon, so you should use everything. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, movies, TV shows, you should use everything, including
It's
books.
built there for a reason, damn it.
Exactly.
Um, so the next story, because I have to go pretty soon. I know it's late at night and I have somewhere to be, but yes, I have somewhere to be. Um, the next story is Kickback by K. Arsenault Rivera, and it's about Scion. And yes, this is the guy, like I said, who got kicked by Luke Skywalker into the Sarlacc pit. I did not get a chance to reread this one, but my original notes was just quick, succinct, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was there was nothing really like meaty about this one. It was just, hey, this random individual, again, like we said with the last book club, it's the idea that you can have somebody who is literally in half a frame of a movie or a TV show and build this entire background around them. That's what they did
Yep.
here. Um and the idea that like they're going out to I can't remember what they call Jabba's like craft that they actually take
The
to
katana.
the katana. Yeah, yeah. Like actually going out onto the platforms of the katana, knowing that everything is kind of going to crap, and like knowing that they're gonna have to like fight a Jedi, and oh, if you shoot here, with the lightsaber and everything else, I do enjoy those small little details. Of course, if you've seen the movie,
Yeah.
you totally understand all of this. So I do enjoy the I think that's the thing that I love most about these books is that you take the small instances and you blow them up to be a lot bigger. And that's what stories usually do. So I really do love that.
Oh. All right. The next one is entitled Everyone's a Critic. And I think that's a good one to like have this week with everything kind of going on. Um, but it is by Sarah Glynn Marsh and it is about Salacious B. Crumb. First of all, it was nice to know this guy died. Like the Sarlacc gets him completely. Like he falls out the katana into the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah.
Bye bye, Salacious B. Crumb. And Salacious is not actually his name. It's just something given to him. I thought it was a little long, but it still worked, and it was nice to like give him that origin story.
This one was a lot longer than I expect it was going to be. Um and it was very, very odd. Um at first I was like, why are we getting this story? Out of all the stories you could tell why this one. Uh and I do kind of like how like even he hated Fortuna. He called him the
Yep.
rude one. Uh, so I thought that was really, really funny. Uh, but having this whole idea of like where he came from, how he was eating scraps of nothing and whatnot. being captured, being, of course, the and for the idea that he got like somewhat jealous, I think, of the whole idea of like Princess Leia being there and everything. It was weird. Uh, but I because you don't see him. You don't see him after uh his, I guess, last scene with Jabba. Like I don't
Yeah.
remember seeing him at all. I'll have to watch it again.
Yeah, his last scene is when he's like attacking Jabba at kind of like the same time Leia's starting to like get
Yeah,
the
yeah,
chain
yeah.
around Jabba.
Yeah. Uh but here it shows that he uh flies off into the air when the katana explodes and he lands into the Snarlack pellet. So, very, very interesting. Again, not my favorite of the bunch that are in these books, but an interesting one. I'll say that.
Yeah. So the last one we're going to talk about today is Satisfaction by Kristen Baver. And it is about Sai Snoodles. And now Sai, we've known from the Clone Wars. Obviously, her first appearance is in these movies. But like she has history back into the Clone Wars, and we actually got like a haunting like ghost appearance by Zero the Hutt. What
Hmm.
did you think about this one?
This I actually really enjoyed this one, more so than I thought I would. I was really looking forward to Kristen's story. I mean, we are big fans of her on the Star Wars show on YouTube, being a very big, of course, ambassador for Star Wars as a whole. Uh,
Yep.
so I did look forward to this one. Uh, have never really resonated with the character of Sai, but this, it almost felt like a classic noir story. Like if this was shown in like black and white and like you had like slow jazz to the whole thing,
Yes. And like the
that's
cigarette coming out
that's
and everything.
that's the vibe that I got for this entire thing, because she like in a weird way she like represents this like, and to everyone to each their own in the Star Wars universe for sure. But she represents this section of beauty in the industry.
Hmm.
And uh of course there's power and beauty, and like there's a little bit of a power struggle within the band, and the way that she hates Max Rebo, and like all of these different things.
Yes.
uh and again, they make Max into like this cartoon-esque character where he
Hmm.
is like just overly obsessed with food, and like he's again like I feel like the Roadrunner noises for running should always happen when Max Rebo is running all over the place. Because that's the vibe I get whenever I read one of these stories. But side like the the way, like again, this noir type of story, she gets angry, she like starts throwing stuff, somebody comes into her room and she starts to like beat them up, and because she's so used to all the bullshit, right?
Yep.
She like, and that's basically what it is. It's just like, I'm tired of the bullshit, and that's what the story is about. um there's a moment I'm trying to remember. uh she basically escapes, right? That's the
Yeah.
implication that we
She
have.
she gets to escape into the greater galaxy is what I wrote.
Yeah. uh but it's legitimate, like she literally has to sneak off and
Yeah.
get out of there. So just like the other one that we read with the two lovers,
Yep.
Sai basically had the same ending. Like she had to just get off and run away. Um, this, like I said, was surprisingly good. Out of the five, I think that this was possibly my favorite. It's the one that I spent the most time really analyzing while I was reading it. Um, Again, wasn't expecting it whatsoever. Uh, which I like. It's those that the stories that really surprise you are the ones that I love the most. And
Yep.
out of the five, this was it.
I think I'm in the same boat where this is my favorite. And I like you said, we love Kristen. I love her positive attitude, and I love that this is the first time she's getting to write a piece of a story for Star Wars that is going to be on the timeline forever. Um, was it the cleanest written? Because I think I had to go back 2 or 3 times to really read like a paragraph and go, okay, what the heck is going on? Especially with some of the Zero the Hutt stuff. I was like, oh, okay, so he's in prison. But then like you go 2 pages down and it was like, oh, but he's a ghost. And Saya's just like kind of seeing her past lovers kind of thing. That was kind of where I ended up, but I still really enjoyed the story. And I liked seeing the interesting look into a woman who can really like do everything. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, I think this brings us to a conclusion, Clay.
Yes, yes, it does. Guys, again, want to make sure that you guys know that the Star Wars Alliance phone, the hotline, Star Wars Alliance hotline is active specifically for the days like this, where we have a brand new show out. If you guys would like to send a text, email, send a voicemail, that's why this phone exists. So, again, I will let you guys know the number right now. It is 830-538-4828. Send us your reactions. Send us, again, call, leave a voicemail. Let us know who you are. Uh, be smart about it, though. Don't share too much information, personal information, should I say. These will be vexed before we read them or listen to them live here on the show. You could end up being here live on the show because of that. So I think that is a very cool thing. We would like to get you guys involved in all of this. So again, 830-538-4828 is the number. The Gmail is, of course, Star Wars Alliance without the A in the wars. So again, that is StarWrsaLLIANCE at gmail.com. And leave us some review, feedback, whatever you want to put in there, reactions. If you have anything that you don't agree with how we interpreted the Ahsoka show, or any of the novels that we read, or have a question for what we think of something within the Star Wars universe, let us know. And we will definitely get back to you as soon as we can. But of course, you can always find me at Fanboy Clay on any and every social media. Go find me there. Of course, I also host the Ranger Alliance podcast here on the network. We should be having a new episode next Monday, so be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, the show that I am a part of outside of this network is Batman News Weekly, and we should be having a new episode come out either Thursday night or Friday night. But of course, again, Friday night is our crossover episode with the
Yes.
rest of the network, and we're going to be talking about Ahsoka. We're going to be talking about the Rebel Moon teaser trailer. We're going to be talking about Blue Beetle. So come join us for that. It's going to be a very fun time. Katie, where can they find you?
So y'all can find me on any social media platform. It's at Slice of Katie. This show you can find on Twitter. It's at Star Wars Alliance without the A in the wars. Very important. Don't forget it. Next week, very important. We will be here live at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For our interview with Random House World's editor Tom. So we had a couple questions for him, kind of developing the From a Certain Point of View trilogy. So it is a live interview. So come join the chat. I know like that's dinner time for me. So I'm eating dinner early. Like I'll probably be bringing a snack. But we will be talking with Tom for the first hour, just kind of celebrating the completion of the From a Certain Point of View trilogy. And then we will be diving into our Ahsoka episode 3 review afterwards. So again, we're not talking news next week. I know it's 2 weeks in a row. Everyone's shocked, but also, what news do we have right now? Other
Exactly.
than the studios suck and pay your writers and actors so we can continue to have stuff like Ahsoka, people. I meant to say that at the beginning and I forgot, so I do apologize. That's my fault. Um, but for now, everyone, I want to wish everyone a great day or night, whatever time of day you are listening or watching, and we will see y'all next time. May the force be with you.